I be edging myself. God forbid I actually received what I asked for. Yeah. On this episode of The Delano Show, we are once again confronting a pattern that was hiding in plain sight. If you've been watching the last few episodes, you know that I've been on a bit of a crusade. Stop calling crumbs nuance. Unloading the clip, righteous indignation, clarity, me realizing that nobody fumbled me. I fumbled myself. And just when I thought that I had reached some sort of resolution, the plot thickened because I came to a realization that made everything stop mid-thought, made everything. I'd be edging myself in every sense of the word. If you know me in real life or have been here for a while, that probably doesn't surprise you. Maybe it does. I actually don't know. But I have this tendency to start and then constrict right as things are about to get good. I build momentum and then I just hover. Get close, then pull back just enough to stay in control. Which, now that I'm saying it out loud, sounds exactly like the original definition of edging. You know, sometimes I do that too. I'll spare you the full metaphor. You understand. The thing is, I used to think this was about indecision or maybe discernment or me being intentional. I had all kinds of elevated language for it. I don't know if you watched about 2 videos ago, I was talking about how I was in this situationship and I kept coming up with different terms for what was going on. I kept calling crumbs nuance. I kept rationalizing things. I kept just living in the lore of it all. But really, what all of this is grief. I have been grieving something without naming it. Grieving the life that I was taught to want. The respectable version of myself that made sense to institutions and parents and people who need things to be easily explained. In my last video, I showed this piece that I created about 3 or 4 years ago when I came out to my parents and it went horribly. And I wrote about how for the first 18 years of my life, I felt pre-programmed to desire certain things. I was living a life that I felt like I should be living. I took cello lessons because that's what smart kids do. I was in all AP classes because that's what smart kids do. I applied to top 20 institutions because that was the logical next step in the path that I found myself on. But coming out to them and disappointing them in that way made me take a step back from my life and ask myself, what do I really want? And that was the first moment that I was able to truly dream for myself. But that version that performs well in rooms where approval is currency, I go back and forth between that and the life that I started to dream about 3 or 4 years ago. At the exact same time, I am watching a completely different life emerge in front of me. One that is embodied, one that is creative, one that is expansive and much harder to package. A life that doesn't always translate well, but is undeniably mine. When I look at my life now, it's so expansive. I am putting on events in my corporate nonprofit job. I am creating art that you can see behind me. I am writing these Substacks. I'm showing up here. I I'm growing. I live such a deeply expansive life. I'm doing so many things. Whenever I talk to my friends, they're like, "Oh, what's going on in the Delano verse now?" And I list like 20 things. I'm on the board of this. I'm on the board of that. I went to this random place. Like, my mind is constantly moving. My life is constantly moving. It does not fit into clean boxes. I have so many people that I'm in community with that are on these like pretty linear paths. They are in med school or law school or some sort of grad school. They have a clear goalpost that they're reaching, and my life is not that, but it feels like mine. Everything that I'm doing right now fits within my life values of creativity, community, and connection, but it's not neatly packaged. Those two versions of myself, the one who grew up to be respectable and legible and fitting the pinnacle of the perfect African child, that me is still in here, but so is the creative expansive version. And those two versions, they don't fully coexist. So instead of choosing, I've been kind of hovering between them. And that hovering is the edging. It lets me stay partially in the life I was pre-programmed to want, while inching towards the life that is actually unfolding. It gives me proximity without commitment, movement without arrival. And if I'm honest, I learned to do this early. Even as a child, I was split. I could feel this demarcation. Outwardly, I performed. I was good. I was articulate. I knew how to behave. I was literally the kid that like would just sit down and be quiet and color. I didn't make noise. I wasn't a rambunctious child. Literally in elementary school, when the other kids were playing, I used to sit on this red bench and just talk. I would talk to the teachers, I would talk to the other kids. Like, I really learned early how to be demure, maybe might be the word, well mannered. That's not quite it. I really learned how to control myself and my behavior. I knew how to be impressive in the ways that were rewarded. But then on the inside, I was creative. I was curious. I was always asking questions that I wasn't supposed to ask and feeling things that didn't have neat containers. But I learned really quickly which version of me was safe to show. So I kept one of them visible. And I tucked the other one away just enough to survive. That curiosity, I kind of packaged it. I remember like in high school and middle school, like I was creative. I was like in art club and stuff, but I didn't allow myself to take it too seriously. I did the science fair instead. I literally went to the international science fair. I was in Model UN. Like, I did all of the things that like an excellent child was supposed to do. And I just kind of like kept the creative, curious parts of myself hidden. But now that version is back, and she's not interested in being quiet anymore. So what I've been calling confusion isn't really confusion, it's integration trying to happen in real time. And unfortunately, that requires letting the performance die. That is where the grief is. Because the performance, it worked. It got me access, it got me opportunities. I went to an Ivy League school for free. I have a job as a senior manager of something. I am on the board of things. I can move in white spaces and be the respectable person. I get labeled as exceptional, which, if I'm being so for real with you, I'm actually really tired of this performance. I want to denounce Everybody's denouncing stuff. Y'all denouncing Spelman. You're denouncing D9 organizations. What I want to denounce is hashtag Black excellence. I am tired of the grind culture. I'm tired of the grind set. I want to stop living inside the performance of being what I was pre-programmed to be. I'm just gonna let that one sit. But you don't just walk away from something that fed you without feeling the loss of it. So instead of fully letting go, I've been edging. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. It's literally everywhere. In Love, for example, enter a new character in the Delanio show, Gemini 3. That's what we're gonna call this one. New energy, new character, completely different from our last romantic interest, Miss Capricorn. If you've been here and you've been watching, you know that was lore, that was ambiguity. It was high level of intellectual stimulation. It was a whole cinematic slow burn that never actually required me to be present in my body. I could just live in my mind. I could just analyze. I could just project. I could build a whole narrative arc, and it was good. The story was good. Just I was eating it up. But Gemini 3 is not that. She is clear and direct, emotionally available. She even told her parents about me. That's big. That's huge. She wants to visit and is like legitimately making plans to do so. Like every day, oh, we should do this, we should do that. Period. She flirts like she means it. There is no mystery to solve. There's no ambiguity to decode. So instead of feeling relief, my nervous system said, let's take a step back. Nothing dramatic, I'm really working on retiring the blatant self-sabotage. This was just subtle. It was a pause before I responded, a slight hesitation when she would say certain things, a tiny pull away when I could just lean in. And I caught it. Actually, she even caught it. She called me out, actually. I'd be edging myself because if something is real, then I have to be real too. I have to show up and respond and let something actually land in my body instead of just keeping it safely in my mind. The version of me as a child who learned how to fragment myself, my mind became my safe place for a variety of reasons. One, as like a person who struggles with chronic pain, my body does not feel safe to me. Being here doesn't feel fun. It doesn't feel fun that my back hurts, that my feet hurt, that my knees hurt, that my neck hurts. It's not fun. So living in my head, that was safer. But then also, as a person who's curious and having all of these questions about the world and is creative and expansive, when I would share those parts of myself with others and they weren't met with enthusiasm, I learned to keep that in my head. My body would present as whatever I needed to present as. One of my college entrance essays, I talked about how growing up in this majority white Appalachian college town, I learned how to fragment myself. I traded the brightly colored Ankara dresses in my closet for monochrome athletic wear, silencing any and all individuality I had. I was just a nameless black face, the respectable one, the articulate one. All of that has contributed to the fact that it is hard for me to allow things to land in my body. And it's not just in love. At work, I see the same pattern. I'm praised, I'm affirmed, I'm invited into rooms, I'm asked to represent the organization, but I'm still underpaid. And instead of demanding more, I rationalize it. You know what? I have freedom. I don't have to go in every day. I have flexibility. I have impact. I dress it up. I am calling crumbs nuance. In my personal work, I have proof. I have so much proof and evidence. I know that what I do shifts people. The last video that I posted, I didn't even post it on my story or tell people about it for real. That video got 700 views. I know that what I do shifts people. I know that what I do shifts people for so many reasons. I literally was nominated for a citywide leadership award. I was the youngest person in the room. Not even the youngest person nominated, the youngest person in the room. I have language. I be writing these Substacks and people be telling me that oh, I saw myself in this. Thank you so much for naming something that I was feeling. I have frameworks. I literally have frameworks. I am part of a gallery, and a couple years ago I helped write a points of unity statement and how we're going to navigate harm statements. I've been working for the past couple of months on something I'm calling the Changemaker framework. I literally have frameworks. I went to school for human and organizational development. I have a degree in critical thinking. I have lived experience, plus this expensive degree that I did not pay for to prove it. Yet I hesitate to release things fully. I will build and refine and think and polish and do it again and again and again, and stop just short of actually putting out there in a way that would require me to hold the outcome. This Changemaker framework that I just was talking about, I've been had this idea. Months and months ago, I said, when I changed my Instagram handle to Delano the Changemaker, I was like, oh, I could do coaching and this around my framework of returning to yourself. And have I released it? No, because I'm afraid to hold the outcome. I be saying that I want embodiment, but I have been choosing almost everything. Things that feel intense enough to keep me engaged, but not stable enough to require me to fully arrive. I like the ambiguity of things not being fully real, because then I don't have to be either. I used to think I wanted ease. I literally say it all the time. I want ease. I want softness. I want to be held. But ease is actually very exposing, because there is nothing to analyze. There is nothing to decode. There is no confusion to hide behind. No emotional gymnastics to prove that I'm trying hard enough. It just is. Are you here or are you not? And that question is louder than I expected. There is something deeply uncomfortable about becoming someone who actually receives what they say that they want, because then you cannot perform the hunger anymore. You have to hold it and let it change you. I really love Octavia Butler and Parable of the Sower. The only lasting truth is change. I, in this fragmentation, am scared of change. I'm scared of being fully the version of myself that I was taught wasn't acceptable. But regardless of whether you intentionally change yourself or not, change is happening. Change is happening. So it's like I have this resistance, the edging. Like I literally be edging myself. I know what I want. I start taking actions towards what I want. And then the respectable, conditioned, nicely packaged version of me is like, girl, what? Mm-mm. I think part of me has honestly been more attached to the identity of becoming than the reality of just being. Because if you are constantly becoming, you're not landing. And I like that because I can be both versions of myself. It's not even that I like it, because I'm getting very tired of this. It's actually quite frustrating. I it's like I want to please everybody. I want to please parents and aunties and all the people. But I also want to please myself. And I can't have both. I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too. So now the questions are different. It's not why will people choose me? That is outdated at this point. The question is, why do I keep choosing situations that don't require me to fully show up? And maybe even more uncomfortable, where else in my life am I still calling crumbs nuance? Where am I keeping myself in motion so that I don't have to fully land? I don't have a clean ending for this. I'm still catching myself in real time, still noticing the hesitation, practicing small interruptions, and letting things be simple without trying to complicate them into something more interesting. I wrote this essay maybe like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago. And since then, like, yes, I have this awareness, but I still be edging myself. I still be edging myself. Even the other day, it was something around money. It was something around money, and I was like, I know in my heart that I want this thing. I've been saying one of my affirmations is my body is a reliable source of information, and I listen to it. My body desires this thing. And I started to get in my head and be like, well, you can't have it because the world is crumbling around you. You can't have it because you need to be saving your money. Oh, you actually should just max out your credit cards and move to Bangkok because girl, if you want something, if you know something in your body, just allow yourself to land and to have it. I had this whole spiral. This was literally like 2 days ago. And I had to remind myself, Delano, every single time that you've desired something and you have put in the work, reality and God have met you there. For example, college. I keep mentioning I have this expensive degree that I didn't pay for. I say that because I always knew that I cared about education and that I wanted to go to college, but I didn't know how that was going to happen. I actually have a letter from my 12-year-old self that I wrote at the end of 6th grade. I wish I had it with me. But it said something along the lines of, Dear Delano, by the time you're reading this, I know that you got into a really good school and got a scholarship, and now you have a really nice job. Remember when you used to not care what people think and you would just read all day? I feel like I'm low-key, maybe I'm a prophet, maybe I have clairvoyance, maybe I'm a seer. My friends have said that I'm a seer, and I actually believe them because I can see these possibilities. I can see the life that I dream of so clearly. But then I start to allow other people's perceptions or desires of me cloud that. But yeah, with college, I always knew that I wanted to go, but looking at the circumstances of my life, my parents didn't have money for that. My parents did not have Ivy League school money. They just didn't. But I knew that that was something that I wanted, so I continued to do the work. I was in the AP classes. I did science fair. I did Model UN. I was just doing stuff that I thought would help me get into college, but like, did I actually know for a fact that I would get in? No. But God, I have been learning names of God in the Quran lately, just because why not? And I watched a video about the name Al Latif, which talks about the subtleness of God, about how God is moving things behind the scenes for your highest good. That God is gentle, that God is kind, that God is compassionate. I knew that I wanted to go to college. I didn't know how. My junior year of high school, my English teacher got a letter from an organization, Questbridge. And it was for the Questbridge College Prep Scholars Program. And it was like, this is for low income, high achieving students who don't really fully understand the college application process. They had a program where they would like literally teach you how to apply for college. You would get matched with people, you could see all of their college partners. There was like a conference. I just applied. I was like, yeah, this me. High achieving for sure. Low income for sure. Sign me up. I just filled out the application and was like, yeah, whatever. I got it. Everything just is always working together for my highest good. I went to that college prep scholars conference at Vanderbilt. And to my mom, I said, this campus is kind of cute. I could see myself here. Just offhandedly, I said that. When it was time to apply for schools, with the process, you could like rank schools. I think you could rank like 12 schools, whichever school highest on your ranking, they accepted you, you had to go. In creating my ranking, I was doing it by prestige. I was doing it by like, what would my parents want? What would make me look good? That version of myself, the respectable one, she was making the choice. So I didn't even put Vanderbilt first. I didn't even put it second. I put Vanderbilt third. But what school did I get into? Vanderbilt. Because I felt in my body, when I said I could see myself here, again, the seeing, I could see myself here. I felt comfortable on the campus. That is where I ended up going. And I got there with a full ride scholarship. My 12-year-old self saw it. My junior year self, however, like, what is that, a year before you get into school, saw it. God worked things behind the scenes for me to get where I needed to be. There's so many, I can give so many examples in my life of me desiring something, me saying with my mouth that I want something, me feeling in my body that I want something, and I don't know the how, but God. Jinyami, my necklace, it means but God. I feel my life is just a series of but God. So I'm still catching myself in real time. I'm still noticing these hesitations, and I'm practicing these small interruptions and letting things be simple without trying to complicate them into something more interesting. For a chronic overthinker, it's hard, but I have noticed over time the space between I want this, I'm freaking out about this, okay, I'm just gonna take the action and trust God has gotten smaller. And reality has bent towards my desires. I am preparing to ask for more money. Actually, at the time that I wrote this, I was preparing. I did actually ask for more money. I'm responding when I want to retreat. I've been having some really great conversations with my friends, with my family, with Gemini 3. I am staying when I would usually hover. This is an interruption. And right now, that feels more honest. So I'll leave you with this because I've had to ask myself this question so many times this week. Where are you still edging in your life? And what would it require for you to actually allow yourself to land? With love and less almost, Delania.